Hey guys, this is week 7 Photoshop tutorial. So today we're going to be talking about typography. So I'm in Photoshop and I'm just going to start by creating a document of any size. I'm just going to choose web and then 800 by 600 just so I have some room, but it doesn't really matter. So to get out the type tool, press T. And you can also find it here in the toolbar. It's in the icon is a T, so that should make it easy to remember. So you can start typing in two different ways. First, you can just click and start typing. And to set the type, hit enter, and that's not return. If you hit return, it's going to do a line space. So you want to hit enter, and that will confirm it, and at that point you can drag it around. The other way is to click and drag, and that will set a bounding box for your text, and that will cause it to wrap, that's W-R-A-P, so that and also it's going to be confined to all these justifying rules. And actually, let me shrink my text a little bit. Okay. So those are the two main ways to type. There's also the vertical type, and that just allows you to type up and down like that. So that's if you're doing like the spine of a book cover or something like that. Now there are these other two types of type, but I don't recommend them because they limit your ability to edit afterwards. So I'll just show you, just to show you why not to use it. So I'm going to have a text area. You notice the whole image turns kind of pink and our text is white. That's what's called a quick mask, and that's something I haven't shown you guys yet, but I can show you later. As soon as you hit enter, your quick mask becomes a selection, and you can do whatever you want with that selection. So you can drag it over here, and you can brush over top of it. But the problem is I can't go back in and edit the type because it's all rasterized now. So not having editability is pretty pointless, so we're not going to use that technique. Okay, so now that I've created some type, let's show you the different features of the type. So I'm going to go ahead and draw an area, and by the way, I also recommend drawing a box rather than just clicking, because when you click, actually my text is all white. If you just click, you know, there's nothing to bound or bind the text. It's just gonna run on forever. So I recommend drawing an area. So, and again it's white, so let me switch that first. Okay, so we've got a number of options here. The first is our font. And right now I have the font set to Babus or Bebus, however you pronounce it, but you've got a big selection of fonts to pick from. These are all my system fonts, so all my other text programs have access to these fonts as well. So I'm just going to choose Helvetica, and you can actually type in the name of the font. So H-E-L Helvetica. So once you get it, just hit return or enter. And to the right of that, you have the style. So we've got bold, regular, oblique, and bold oblique. Now there is a difference between, actually, let me make this a little bigger. There is a difference between a true bold and a true italic and a faux bold and faux italic. I'm going to show you the difference between a true bold and a faux bold. So first I'm going to type true bold, or I'll just type bold. Make that a little bigger. Now below that I'm going to type, let me space that out a bit. Below that I'm going to type bold, but I'm going to set it to regular, and then right here is the bold modifier, and it even says FAUX bold, so faux bold. When I apply that and hit enter, if we zoom in, actually let me make them both bigger. Alright, one difference is the spacing is different, so the true bold actually comes out further than this one, even though they're both the same type point size. The other thing you'll notice is these kind of beveled edges, and they're also here and here. So the difference is this is actually, the person who created this font set actually created 4 sets of fonts. So he individually designed each style, whereas this is just the computer adding a bold on its own by either, I'm not sure the exact method it uses, but it's just going to take your original outline and just expand it. So that's not good. I'm going to show you another example with italic, but in this case I'm going to use the font Georgia. So let's see here. Okay, so there's the true italic, and then this is the faux italic. So you notice the actual letter form changes. The actual A has a stem right here. I'm not sure if that's the proper term. And here, these serifs right here, these things at the bottom and top, these little ledges are called serifs. Right here you'll see it's just kind of a swoopy serif, whereas here it's straight. So these are 2 completely different sets of letters. So even though I've got the italic set, it's not the same as this set of letters which are italic. Alright. Okay, the next thing, I'll just show you some of the options for your font. So what I've been demonstrating is the point size. So you can just put your mouse over those T icons and drag them to the left and right. That'll make it smaller or bigger. You can also click in here and choose a preset value. And you can also type in the point size. And once you want that size, just hit enter. There's also anti-aliasing, which is this right here. So by default it's set to crisp. If we turn that to none, I'm going to zoom in, you'll notice it's really jagged, whereas if I set it to sharp, it smooths it out. And there's different types of anti-aliasing. I honestly have a hard time telling the difference, so it's not a big deal. But the way it does it is depending on how much of the letter is passing through each pixel, it's going to change its shade of gray. So like out here, there's hardly any of the letter passing through this particular pixel. Whereas this one that's almost dark, that probably the entire thing is full the shape of the letter. So that's anti-aliasing. Also, there's justification, which is these right here. So you can left justify, you can right justify, or you can center justify. You can also, it's called align. Justify and align are the same meaning. And then you can choose the color of your font. So if I want red, pick red. Also, you can set some curvature to your text. So you can add an arc to it. And even while you're in this warp text mode, you can still move the box around. So we can warp it horizontally or vertically. We can tell it how much we want to bend it. And we can add horizontal and vertical distortion. So that can kind of add perspective. And there's all kinds of other effects you can play around with. And this right here activates the text palette. So these are some additional options we have. So right here we've got the font and the style like we did above. We also have the font size. And then some other things that we don't have above are the leading. And it's spelled L-E-A-D-I-N-G, but it's pronounced leading. And that's referring to back in the old days when they would actually put pieces of lead between rows of text, and that would spread the lines apart. So I'm going to hit return and type my next line. So I can drag this value back and forth, and that's going to adjust the leading. So at 0, they're actually overlapping. There is no negative value, and you can only go up from there. You can also set it to auto, and that's going to kind of decide on its own what a good amount of space is to put between the lines. And there's also kerning, which, or let's see, I guess they call it tracking. But, oh, this is kerning. So they're pretty similar. It's basically the spacing in between the letters. So in this case, 0 represents the appropriate default amount of space between letters. And you can go negative in this case until they're actually backwards. Okay. You can stretch your text vertically. That's based on a percentage, or you can stretch it horizontally. And then this is how high above the rest of the letters your text is going to be shifted. So that's baseline shift. So you can do that. I guess a good example of that would be like below. You can type it like that, or you can type like above. Move your text up above. So something like that. And again, you can adjust your color here. We've got the faux bold, the faux italic. I'm going to turn the kerning down a bit. Turn off the italic. You can do all caps. And this is convenient, so you don't have to actually type all your text out with the caps lock on. That gives you some flexibility. There's also small caps, Now it's like all caps except the first, or whatever letter you capitalize is going to be larger than the rest. And you've got the superscript, so make that a superscript or make that a subscript. So you can do like H2O, except I think all these are superscript. So I've set that to a subscript. Or you can say like 10 to the -3rd. Make that superscript. You can also underline text. You notice the underline got moved up for that one, and then you can cross text out. Okay, one more thing with the text is you can either make your edits by highlighting the letters. So if I want these just black, highlight them and then set them to black. Or if you hit enter and you have that text layer selected, you can actually affect the entire body of text with these adjustments. So if I set this to like 50, it affects the entire thing. Whereas if I go in here, I can affect the size of one individual thing. Now you'll notice there's no number in there because there's varying text sizes in there. Same with the color. Since there's more than one color, it's just going to show a question mark. But if I go in there, I choose like a green, it sets the entire text box to green. Okay, and then there's paragraph, which we've already sort of done. So I'm going to set that back to black. I'm going to left justify it. Type some more text. If you want to indent text, you highlight it, and then right here you can left indent. If you hold the shift key and drag, and this applies to any other adjustment, but if you hold your shift key, it's going to make it move a lot faster. So notice my cursor, I'm moving just that much, whereas here, if I'm not holding shift, I have to drag much further to get the same effect. You can also choose to hyphenate your text. So if I squeeze this text box, I can turn hyphenate on, and it's going to hyphenate my letters automatically. You can also indent from the right. And you can put a space before the paragraph or after the paragraph. Or just indent the first line. And this right here is going to spread your text out evenly across the text box. So let me start a new box. So hello. All right, right now it's set to center. I can do right, left, or this is going to justify it to the entire box. Now, as soon as I add a space and type another word, now each word is like a unit. Whereas if I don't have spaces, it's going to stretch the entire word across. So hello there, what's up? And if I can fit that all in the same line, it's going to space each word evenly. Alright, so that is all the text tools. Or those are all the text tools. So let's apply them to do some effects. So I talked about in class some different ways we can give type feeling. So we've got size, spacing, boldness, font, color, strokes versus no stroke, upper lowercase, so on. So we had some example words, and we're going to try to have the words the word forms sort of describe the adjective that they're being used to write. So, for example, if I want to do alone, let's see. First, I want it to be black so we can see it. Okay. There's a couple ways I could do this. I could spread all those letters apart so that they're kind of, you know, on their own. But some people might say that and think, oh, well, you can still see all of them, so they're not so alone. So what we could do is have it all as one word and then just kind of put it in the corner, or just put it right in the middle so that, you know, there's nothing around it. Maybe even make it smaller. I also might, I think capitalizing it, whoops, might help unify it as a single word, although it does give it some confidence. So a lot of these things are really relative, but we can use certain things in a visual vocabulary to kind of affect the feeling of a word. So there's alone. I didn't have this on the list, but I was thinking maybe busy. What I might do is maybe cramp them together, but then I might actually duplicate the letter or the word. And then maybe for each one, set a different style to it. Or maybe a different font. So Arial. Maybe some different styles. Some different kerning. So no one said you can't duplicate. So I don't know, I think that's pretty busy. So I'm just gonna select those and group them. So select them by shift selecting them and then right click and go up to here and create a new group from layers. So busy. Okay, so we got busy, we got alone. Let's see. Maybe light. So right now they're kind of grouped together and it's bold, so I want to make it really thin. So I'm going to use a really thin font like Existence. And they actually even have a style called light. I could try stencil. I might even cause some of them to move up. As if it's like floating. Maybe spread them out a bit. Yeah. I'm trying to grab those corners. Yeah. I just lost my text box. Okay, so you get the point. All right, so project 2 is to go to this site, photographyserve.com, and use some text like text masking and sampling colors, and some of the techniques we already talked about to sort of describe the picture. So I'm just going to go over the ones we did in class. So we got this first picture. We got this Lego guy, and we got some white space, so I want to put some text in there. So I'm going to copy the image, go into Photoshop, File, New, and it's going to automatically size it to the image that I copied, which is 800 by, or 880 by 587. So when I do Edit Paste, it's going to fit perfectly. So the first thing I want to do is just get rid of this logo. So I'm going to select that with the marquee, and then go to the patch tool and just drag it. So maybe drag it down to here. And grab that too. Okay. So I think some appropriate words would be like Lego death, or Lego murder, or Lego violence, or something like that, or Lego killer. So I'm going to use my text tool, draw my first word. Oops. Now I'm going to use kind of a rough, violent looking type font, so let's see what we got here. Also, maybe this one. Yeah, it looks pretty rough. If it's hard for you to see from the font previews, every Mac has, if we go to the Finder, hit Command N for a new window, go to Applications. There is, and it's taking a while to think. Well, I'll go back to this while it's thinking. There is an application, I have it all already on my dock. It's called Font Book. Still thinking. But it gives you really big previews of your fonts. So it lists them all alphabetically, and you can even group them. So I've already grouped mine. So I have one called Rough, and it looks like I haven't filled it with anything. On my other computer at work, I've already filled all these groups with fonts. But you can go in there and let's see, yeah, this one's pretty rough, so I'm going to drag it into Rough. So now it's part of that group. But this will just give you a really nice preview of your text, and you can even drag this little bubble here to change the size. So I recommend that. Let's see if we have it on here yet. Nope, and it's not showing up. Huh. There we go. Okay, so under Application, and then under Utilities, actually I don't think it's even under Utilities. It's just in your main Applications folder. It's called Font Book, so that's this. So that'll really help out. So I've got this one, and I think a more appropriate color would be red. So I'm going to choose a red color. And I'm going to set the multiply so it's kind of like, looks like it's overlaying the image a little more. And then I'm going to duplicate that, so you can copy a text layer by holding, or any layer, by holding Command and Option at the same time. And on Windows, that'll be Control and Alt, and then dragging it with those keys held down. So I'm going to Alright, so there we go. What I want to do is kind of overlap this Lego guy, because what I'm going to do is mask out part of the text so it looks like he's in front of it. So the way I'm going to do that is, you'll want some kind of selection tool. I'm going to use the pen tool to make my selection, and I want this middle button selected. So I'm going to click around this guy's head. And part of his body too. Whoops, and basically what we're doing is setting up a mask for our text to hide behind. And you'll see in a minute once we create the mask. And there's actually several ways to do it even with the pen tool or with any other method. So almost done here. Okay. All right, now that I've made my pen outline, I might adjust it just a little bit. Okay. Since I use the pen tool, what I can do is I've got Lego selected. Press P to get the pen tool, right click on here and choose make selection. And make sure anti-aliasing is on, make sure there's no feathering, hit OK. All right, now what we want to do is inverse the selection, because if we create a mask from this, it's only going to show what's inside of him, and we want to show what's outside of him. So I'm going to go to select inverse, or you can hit Command Shift I. So now we've selected everything outside of him. I'm going to click with the Legos layer selected. That's really important. Click this mask button, and now the text has hidden behind him, but only for the Lego layer. For the killer, what we can do is hold Command and click on the mask icon for that layer, and we can basically reuse that selection. So now we're going to click on killer and click the mask button again, and we've hidden killer. So we've killed two birds with one stone. Excuse the pun. So now what we can do is, if we want to move our text, first of all, I'll show you doing it the wrong way. If I try moving the killer, it's going to move the mask along with it, which we don't really want. So I'm going to unlink the mask from the text. So click that little chain, and now be sure that you click back on the text icon. So now when we move it, it's going to remain behind him no matter where we put it. So let's say I want it right there. The other thing you can do, which you won't want to do, but in other cases you might, is to actually click on the mask at this point when they're disconnected, and you can actually move the mask around. So, but most likely you'll be doing that by accident at this point, so, but later on it might come in handy. So make sure the text layer is selected. So let's do that for the Lego 2. Click on the T, and let's move it. Whoops. And I just want to find something that looks appropriate. I'm going to actually make the axe part of the K. I don't know, something like that. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do is just add a little bit of text to go along with the image. So I'm going to create a little text box. I'm going to choose a more appropriate font like Helvetica. Set the size a lot smaller, like maybe 18. And then for the color, I'm going to sample from my image, something kind of dark. So maybe that color, or maybe that color. And now, rather than just being a straight up black, see if it was black, it's a little bit more harsh. So I want it to kind of blend in with the image. So I'm going to choose, one of these colors. And it kind of blends in a bit more. I might actually do that with the reds too. So got my red selected. Change that to maybe this red. So now it's more fitting with the image. Same with this one. Oops, actually let's try that again. Okay. So now it kind of matches that faded vintage look. Now if I want a whole bunch of text here, an easy way to do that is to go to lipsum.com, and I have a link here. And this will just generate filler text, and they kind of explain what it is here. But you go here, tell how many paragraphs you want, hit generate, and it'll give you this kind of fake Latin text. So you can just copy this, go in here and just paste. And that creates us some filler text. I might actually want it down here. I don't know, something like that. All right. So I'm not going to do the second example because it's pretty much the same principles. Although there is one other example. I wasn't going to do the third example, but I'm going to do the second example. And that is we want to mask this text or this layer to a text layer. So I'll just show you. So I'm going to copy that image, create a new document, paste. All right, I'm going to type sunset, make it really big so it fills the whole thing. I'm going to make it bold. Might place it closer together, make it even bigger, maybe a little closer, and bigger. All right, hit enter. Now I'm going to place that wherever the text is, the image is going to show through. And actually at this point it doesn't matter what color the text is. So what I'm going to do is drag the text below the image and then hold the Option or Alt key and click between the two layers. And you notice my icon changes to those two circles. You'll need that in order for this to work. So as soon as your mouse is between those and you have the Option key held down, just click and your image gets shrink wrapped to your text. So now, just so it looks more fitting, I'm going to select my background layer, choose a black, and press Option Delete. So now we've got kind of a cool image here. What I'd like to do though is maybe move the text around a bit more so it reveals different parts of the image. So I'm going to select the text and just drag it. So maybe I want more of this bicyclist here. I don't know. Something like that. And there you have it. So your assignment is to do something like this, where you take an image from photographyserve.com, pick any image you want, and place 1 or 2 large words that match the description of the scene, as well as a block of lorem ipsum text. So let's see here. Maybe and also you probably want to pick something with lots of white space. So we got this big desert scene, so write desert.